Perky Plains and RC here, operating at 2.4 gigahertz, and got my trusty, brand new Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. It's actually not too bad. All right. So this is the kind of video that I really did not really think that I'd be making on this channel, but yet here we are. So we're going to talk about it. I'm talking about the FAA's proposed remote ID rule that is, sort of come to light here in the past few months. And I've been, trying to follow up with various other YouTubers as well on this, as far as watching some of their videos and some of their comments and everything. People like XJet, for example, 51 Drones, and of course Flitetest. Been following some of their videos as well on this particular topic. And honestly, as far as where I stand with the issue, I will say this first and foremost. I can see this definitely on a commercial standpoint, from a commercial standpoint. So definitely for any big businesses out there that want to do maybe possibly a drone delivery service, which has been brought up, I can definitely see a reason to have remote ID so they can actually track their delivery drones to make sure they get there to their destination. So from a commercial standpoint, I'm okay with that. From a hobbyist recreational standpoint, from what I'm seeing, it creates a lot of burdens to me, especially some of the things they are thinking about. And I'm kind of wondering how this is going to apply to what I do and all that kind of stuff. We're talking having a device that basically sends an identification out to their system so they can track exactly where I'm flying at, and just to make sure basically if I'm in any possible airspace that they actually need or what have you. Talking about possible data plans, internet access needed to actually do these sort of these types of remote ID services. The idea of having your information public out there for everyone to see, so someone could look up exactly where you are, what you're flying, what altitude, things like that. So, there's a lot of stuff going on with this. And I myself, like I said, I can definitely see it from a commercial standpoint. I think it's going to create a lot of issues, especially for recreational hobbyists like myself. So rather than trying to be all gloom and doom and talk about all this stuff that's going on with this proposed remote ID, and because really, as far as I'm concerned, it's such a large gray area. There's just so many exceptions and so many different things out there. The hobby is just so much bigger than me flying airplanes, for example. There are people that do thermal gliding and fly at rather higher altitudes. There's, of course, multi-rotors and drones. There's FPV. People probably still do helicopters out there. I don't hear a lot from the helicopter guys, but I'm sure there are guys that are still passionate about helicopters. There are, of course, different types of RC airplanes, from wood-constructed, more scale-like planes to just little foam board planes like I do, and what Flitetest does. And there's just so many different topics on this that it's like it's going to kind of create issues, I think, for everyone, really. So what I'm going to address in this video in particular is, for the FAA or whoever wants to listen to this, I want to tell you what it is that I do. And I hope that by doing this, you will kind of see, what sort of things that I expect out of this, or if any at all, really. But I want to basically get my story out there, and in hopes that they can use that to sort of further revise this proposed remote ID rule and everything. So, and just kind of let people know how important this hobby is to me. Okay. And I'm sure some of you guys out there that know my channel probably already know my story anyways, but I'm going to go ahead and tell it again, and just kind of try to summarize what all it is that I do. Okay. First off, I am currently 39 years old. I originally started in the RC hobby, RC plane hobby, when I was a teenager. Okay. I had a 5 foot balsa trainer model that was nitro powered, nitro fuel powered. And to make a long story short, I was too afraid to fly the thing at the time. Um, there was the model itself was very costly, and of course, there's a lot of prep involved with with the fuel and getting the mixing and all that kind of stuff. And this was also back at a time when the internet you know, really didn't have much going on at the time. So I really didn't, I couldn't quite reach out as easily, to people that were into this particular hobby. And so, to make a long story short with that, I ended up quitting the hobby probably after about a year because I was just too scared I was going to crash this very nice, expensive airplane. And I pretty much kind of quit after that. Fast forward to about 3 or 4 years ago, the bug got me again. I wanted to get back to doing RC planes, and I wanted to try and make it be successful this time. I wanted to try and see if I could actually do it, and go from there basically. So that's what happened. 3 or 4 years ago, I started back doing RC planes. This time, more focusing on just foam airplanes. Um, and that's where the passion and love grew. From there, and of course, technology had changed a lot since then and stuff. Electric was actually very common and much easier to do RC planes with. So I was actually able to have success and actually fly RC airplanes. Um, started like I said back about 3 or 4 years ago. I was actually got back into it and had success with it. So, um, and another thing that I want to point out as well is that since things had changed so much with not only with plane technology, the internet of course was much larger and all this kind of stuff. So there was a great community out there for anybody willing to help you. Just much easier to get into the hobby for me, definitely. And fast forward to current right now. Basically, what I do is this. I follow a company called Flitetest. I do a lot of their foam board airplanes. These are airplanes made out of foam board, wood, and just some common everyday materials, packing tape, hot glue, that kind of stuff. Okay. I basically use their plans that they provide. I download them from the internet. I put those to the foam board, cut the foam board pieces out, and glue the whole thing together. The models range anywhere from probably a half pound to maybe even a few pounds. Um, and they're all electric. And I basically fly these things either at my local AMA RC field or any available field that's around the area. It could be like a church parking lot field, a school, football, soccer field, or something like that. That's generally where I fly at. I do also have some balsa models that I've been working on as well. The heaviest of the balsa models has reached about 7 or 8 pounds, roughly. So, um, and I pretty much have also done those all electric as well. I've not really ventured much into gas powered, fuel powered RC planes. I may eventually look more into doing fuel powered planes, but as for right now, I'm okay and content doing electric. um, I 100% of the time right now fly line of sight. I have not ventured into FPV, although I have pondered eventually maybe getting into FPV a little bit. So, but that's pretty much what I do. There are planes that are about this big, upwards to planes that have about a 5 to 6 foot wingspan. So that's basically the size of planes that I generally fly. As far as anything else, I do have some toy grade drones, most of which are relatively light and have a very limited range. Fly these around little local parks or at families' backyards or something like that. One thing we also do have in our household is a DJI Phantom drone quadcopter. that we occasionally use for good photography or good video situations. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what it is that I do. Um, as far as any, like I said, memberships, I did mention that I'm a member of an AMA RC club. Have been there for 3 or 4 years, and I don't plan on stopping that. So, as for right now, I am a very budget conscious RC plane modeler. I do everything as budget as possible. At this current moment, we are a single income family, just my income alone, with my wife and my young daughter. And like I said, I just try to keep the hobby as cheap as possible. I can't afford to go and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a new plane. It's just not feasible. So doing the flight test approach with foam board and common materials, cheaper electronics, that's what works for me and works with our budget. So the idea of having to purchase additional equipment, data subscription plans, or anything like this required for remote ID is just not real feasible right now. Nor do I think it will be. I really don't like the idea of additional fees and things that I already pay, especially considering the fact that I do pay for membership to the AMA and also for membership at the RC Club. So additional costs, I do kind of frown upon that right now. Maybe in a couple years that might change. I don't know. But for right now, keeping costs at a minimum is the best thing, especially in the grand scheme of things, especially considering how expensive this hobby can be. There are, of course, RC planes out there that cost hundreds and thousands of dollars. So the idea of having to put more money into it sometimes is not necessarily, ideal. So, anyways, I definitely prefer to not have to change much from what I'm doing right now for these new proposed rules, as far as, especially in terms of purchasing additional equipment and things like that. I pretty much can tell you that I fly as safely as possible, and I tend to fly away from people. I don't fly anywhere near people or near any kind of airports or anything like that. I generally look for the most open, remote areas possible that I can fly at without bothering anybody. So that's basically me in a nutshell. And I'm sure that there are other modelers out there, other people in the hobby that have a similar approach, and don't want to see a lot of changes as well. Something else I do want to mention. I believe as of right now, I have a total of about 20 plus airplanes, RC airplanes, and about 3 or 4 quadcopters or drones. So that's about what my equipment is right now. So, like I said, again, I don't particularly want to see a whole great deal of changes coming on the hobby, like they're proposing. I hope that they can work on this to accommodate the different people out there, different hobbyists out there, not just me, but others as well that are into different parts of the hobby. Some of those that are into the more balsa planes, or some of those that are into FPV, folks that are into helicopters and drones and just everything. So, and I would like, honestly, for to make this hobby still approachable for my family. My wife has dabbled a little bit with it as well, more so in the drones and quadcopters and our Phantom DJI Phantom drone, as well as my daughter. My daughter is she was born prematurely at 24 weeks. She is now just turned 2 years old a few months ago, and I would hope to at some point like to introduce her to the hobby and maybe get her into doing a little bit of that stuff. And I think that additional regulations will make it very difficult sometimes to introduce new people into the hobby, especially for somebody like her if she was interested in it. So that's kind of where I stand with this. Like I said, I wanted to just kind of go through an overview as far as what it is that I do, so that any people out there watching, FAA especially, or anyone in the government, can sort of understand where I'm coming from with this, and and hopefully make these new rules work for everyone if possible, as best as they can. Um, but anyways, that is all for me, guys. I want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.